The Galactic Conclave headquarters stood imposing against the artificial horizon of Nexus Station. Like a massive crystal cathedral, its transparent walls caught the light of 3 nearby stars, creating rainbow patterns across the diplomatic quarter. Dr. Jin Kim adjusted her formal uniform one last time before entering the grand building. "Remember your breathing exercises," she whispered to herself. 3 years of these meetings had taught her how to maintain composure in the face of constant belittlement. Earth had discovered faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago, stumbling onto the galactic stage like a toddler among adults. The established species, some with million-year histories of space exploration, had reluctantly admitted humanity to their ranks, but made no effort to hide their disdain. Dr. Kim passed through the security scan, ignoring the pitying looks from the blue-skinned Carulian guards. She carried nothing but her data tablet containing her presentation on dimensional physics, a field where humans were making remarkable progress despite their primitive status. The main chamber was a vast amphitheater arranged in tiers, each section allocated to a different species based on their longevity in the conclave. Humans, being newcomers, occupied the highest and smallest tier, furthest from the central speaking platform. As Dr. Kim made her way down the steps, conversations quieted. Heads turned, some with multiple eyes, others with sensory appendages that humans still couldn't fully understand. She felt their attention like physical pressure. The human representative approaches, announced the chamber's automated system. Dr. Jin Kim of Earth, lead scientist of dimensional research. She walked with careful dignity past the Xilorian delegation. Their tall, elegant forms towered over humans by nearly a meter, their silver-blue skin seeming to radiate superiority. Ambassador Lore, the Xilorian representative, watched her with 6 golden eyes that never blinked. "Ah, our curious little mammals have something to share," he remarked loudly enough for the chamber to hear. "How charming." Scattered laughs followed her to the podium. Dr. Kim placed her tablet down and activated the holographic display. Above her, a model of multiple interwoven dimensions appeared, showing the mathematical framework her team had developed. "Distinguished members of the conclave," she began, "the Tesseract Project has made significant breakthroughs in understanding dimensional folding beyond our visible 4 dimensions." Ambassador Lore made a sound that his translator rendered as an aristocratic scoff. "The human wishes to lecture us on dimensional physics. Perhaps she would be better suited discussing her species' primitive combustion engines, which I believe some of their vehicles still use." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Several delegates didn't even bother to hide their amusement behind diplomatic courtesy. Dr. Kim continued steadily. "Our calculations suggest that conscious navigation through dimensions 5 through 7 is theoretically possible, allowing for instant transportation across vast distances without traditional spatial movement." The Torvak representative, a being resembling a massive mantis, waved a dismissive appendage. The gleaming exoskeleton caught the light as he gestured toward her display. "Humans always reaching beyond their grasp," the translator conveyed in flat tones. "You've barely mastered interplanetary travel within your own system. Perhaps master the basics before attempting to rewrite physics." Many scientific advancements throughout history were initially dismissed. Dr. Kim replied evenly. "We simply ask for consideration of our research and potential collaboration." "Consideration noted," the conclave moderator said, effectively ending her presentation time. "The human delegation may return to their assigned seating." Dr. Kim collected her tablet, noticing that her data had barely been glanced at. She made her way back up the stairs, maintaining perfect posture despite the whispers around her. Outside the chamber, her colleague Dr. Sumpark waited with an expectant expression. His eyes searched her face for any sign of good news. "How did it go?" he asked, already knowing the answer from her tight expression. "Exactly as expected," she replied, walking briskly toward the Earth Embassy offices. They laughed, they mocked, they dismissed everything without even examining the data. Park sighed, falling into step beside her. "Should we consider approaching individual species directly? The Alcarians have shown some interest in alternative dimensional theories." Dr. Kim stopped suddenly, a small smile forming on her lips. No, let them laugh. Let them dismiss us publicly while we continue our work privately. But without conclave support, our funding will come from Earth directly, she finished. The Admiral has already guaranteed military backing for the prototype. Park's eyes widened. You mean we're actually building it? The dimensional ship. The Archimedes begins construction next month. Dr. Kim confirmed. They're not taking us seriously, Park, which means we have the element of surprise. She glanced back at the glittering conclave building. Let them mock humanity while they can. They won't be laughing when our ship emerges from the seventh dimension. 500 meters beneath the Gobi Desert, humanity's greatest secret thrived. The Tesseract facility sprawled in a massive cavern, excavated and reinforced in absolute secrecy. Only 300 people in the world knew of its existence, and every one of them worked inside its walls. Dr. Jin Kim stood motionless behind a radiation shield, her eyes fixed on the prototype vessel suspended in the testing chamber. The size of a small car, the craft gleamed under the harsh lights, its hull composed of materials most physics textbooks claimed couldn't exist. Final power check, she said into her headset. Around the circular control room, her team moved with the focused precision of a well-rehearsed orchestra. 3 years of working together through failures, breakthroughs, and countless 18-hour days had forged them into something beyond colleagues. Dimensional matrix stable, called out Dr. Wan, his fingers dancing across his workstation. Quantum field parameters locked, added Dr. Co, not looking up from her calculations. In the center of it all, Li Nin stood surrounded by floating holographic projections, making minute adjustments to equations that even most physics professors would struggle to comprehend. Power levels stabilizing at 98%, Li announced, his voice steady despite the momentous occasion. The containment field is holding perfectly. Dr. Kim allowed herself a small breath. This was their 27th test. The previous 26 had resulted in spectacular failures, wasted materials, damaged equipment, and once, a blast that had nearly breached the testing chamber. 27 is lucky in some cultures, Park had told her that morning. She wasn't superstitious, but she found herself hoping he was right. From the observation deck above, Admiral Choi watched with arms crossed. The military leader had fought political battles as fierce as any naval engagement to keep their funding flowing. More than once, he'd put his career on the line defending a project many government officials considered a waste of resources. Are we ready to proceed, Dr. Kim? The Admiral asked through the communication system. She nodded. All systems are green. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The prototype floated serenely, unaware it was about to attempt something no human-made object had ever done. Travel through the fifth dimension. Dr. Kim took a deep breath. Begin phase shift. Li activated the sequence. The room filled with a high-pitched hum as power surged through the facility. Lights dimmed momentarily as the prototype drew more energy than a small city. Inside the chamber, the air around the small vessel began to warp visibly. Light bent around it in ways that made several technicians look away to avoid nausea. The prototype's metallic surface rippled like water, then began to fold, not physically, but somehow folding through itself, through space that wasn't there. And then it vanished. The chamber was empty. Dr. Kim held her breath. 1 second passed. 2. 3. Several technicians exchanged nervous glances. Park gripped the edge of his console so hard his knuckles turned white. Then, with a soft pop of displaced air, like a gentle thunderclap in reverse, the vessel reappeared 20 meters from its original position. Perfectly intact. Sensors immediately began streaming data to the team's monitors. For a moment, nobody spoke. Nobody even breathed. Fifth dimensional fold successful, Park finally whispered, awe evident in his voice. His hands trembled as he examined the incoming data. The calculations were correct. All of it. The math works. The room erupted in cheers and embraces. Dr. Co wept openly while Lee stared at the prototype in stunned silence. Dr. Kim remained still, allowing the magnitude of what they'd achieved to wash over her. Humanity had just broken one of the fundamental rules of known physics. They had found a path through dimensions previously accessible only in mathematics. Admiral Choi's voice cut through the celebration. Containment protocols remain in effect, he reminded them. Though his typically stern voice carried an unusual warmth, he turned away briefly, speaking into his communicator. Inform the President. Project Tesseract is moving to Phase 2. He turned back to the celebrating team. Well done, everyone. Truly remarkable work. Dr. Kim finally allowed herself a smile. Run the diagnostics. Let's collect every piece of data we can. I want to know exactly what happened during those 3 seconds. As the team returned to their stations with renewed vigor, Lee approached her. Do you realize what this means? If we can navigate the 5th dimension, the 6th and 7th might actually be possible too. Everything you theorized. One step at a time, she cautioned, though her eyes shone with the same excitement. But yes, I believe we're on the right path. She glanced at the prototype, now innocently floating as if it hadn't just rewritten humanity's understanding of physics. They won't be laughing much longer, she said softly. Dr. Kim rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the complex equations floating in holographic form above her desk. For 18 months, the Tesseract project had progressed faster than anyone had dared hope. They had successfully built the Archimedes, humanity's first dimensional-capable spaceship, and had proven that 5th and 6th dimensional travel was possible in controlled tests. But the 7th dimension remained elusive. The mathematics worked in theory, but the energy requirements and navigational complexities increased exponentially with each dimensional layer they attempted to breach. Her concentration broke when the emergency alert sounded throughout the facility. Red lights pulsed along the corridors as she hurried toward the command center. The massive underground war room buzzed with tense activity when she arrived. Military personnel moved urgently between stations while civilian scientists huddled around data displays. At the center of it all stood Admiral Choi, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of the main tactical screen. Dr. Kim, good. You're here, he said, gesturing her forward. On the main display, a real-time satellite feed showed Jupiter and its moon Europa. Strange ships hovered above the human research colony there, sleek vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their distinctive designs were unmistakable. Silurians, Dr. Kim whispered. Communications Officer Jun turned from his station, his young face grim with concern. Silurian battleships have established orbital positions around Europa, he reported formally. They're calling it a peacekeeping exercise. An unpleasant silence fell over the command center. Everyone understood what this meant. For years, the Silurians had been the most vocal critics of humanity's expansion into the solar system. They had repeatedly claimed that humans were too violent, too unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology. How many ships? Dr. Kim asked. 17, including 3 Dreadnought-class vessels, Jun replied. They've positioned a similar fleet near Mars. Admiral Choi's expression remained controlled, but Dr. Kim could see the tension in his shoulders. They claim they're responding to concerning military developments within our system. The conclave ambassadors are pretending to take their concerns seriously. They'd been looking for an excuse, Dr. Park said, joining them at the tactical display. Ever since we demonstrated the 5th dimensional jump last month, they've accelerated their efforts to contain us. On the screen, one of the Silurian ships moved closer to the Europa research station, clearly visible against the icy moon's surface. Admiral Choi turned to Dr. Kim, his eyes intense. How soon can the Archimedes be operational? Dr. Kim mentally reviewed the ship's status. The Archimedes sat in its underground hangar, nearly complete. Its dimensional drive had successfully executed 5th and 6th dimensional jumps in the last test series. The dimensional drive needs final calibration, she replied carefully. We've proven 5th and 6th dimensional travel is possible, but the seventh remains theoretical. "We don't have time for theoretical," Choi said, his voice sharper than usual. "The Conclave has rejected our protests. The Xilorians know we can't match their firepower." Dr. Kim understood his anxiety. Earth's defense fleet consisted of just 30 ships capable of interplanetary travel. Most were retrofitted exploration vessels with minimal weapon systems. Against the Xilorian Armada, they might as well be paper airplanes facing fighter jets. She studied the tactical display showing Earth's outmatched defense fleet. The blue dots of human ships looked tiny and fragile compared to the red markers of the Xilorian vessels. "What are they demanding?" she asked. "Complete disarmament of all space-based installations," Chun answered. "Supervision of all our research facilities. Essentially, they want to reduce us to a protectorate species." Dr. Kim's mind raced through variables, calculations, and risks. The seventh dimension was different from the fifth and sixth. In theory, an object moving through it wouldn't just travel from point A to point B. It would exist partially in multiple locations simultaneously, a quantum state applied to a macroscopic object. 72 hours, she finally said. "And I'll need to be on board. The calculations must be adjusted in real time." Admiral Choi nodded grimly. "I'll begin preparations and alert the President." Dr. Park touched her arm lightly. "Jin, you understand what you're proposing has never been attempted," he said quietly. The simulation showed a 30% chance of catastrophic dimensional fracturing if the calculations are even slightly off. Around them, the command center continued its urgent activity. On the main screen, the Xilorian ships moved into tactical formation around Europa. The countdown to confrontation had begun. Dr. Kim looked at her colleague with quiet determination. "Neither was human spaceflight, once," she replied. "Sometimes being underestimated is our greatest advantage." She turned back to the tactical display, watching the Xilorian ships with newfound resolve. "They think they know what humans are capable of. They're wrong." Earth's largest orbital shipyard had never been so quiet. Normally bustling with construction teams and cargo transports, today it was nearly empty. Only a skeleton crew remained, working under orders to appear as normal as possible while the most important ship in human history prepared for its maiden voyage. The Archimedes hung in a special berth, hidden from casual observation. Unlike any ship in Earth's fleet, its hull gleamed with a strange, not-quite metal that seemed to shift colors depending on how you looked at it. No external engines were visible, no conventional thrusters or propulsion systems. Instead, intricate patterns covered its surface, geometries that made the eyes ache if viewed too long. On the bridge, Dr. Kim sat at the dimensional drive control station. Around her, a hand-picked crew of 20 specialists worked with focused intensity. Captain Han moved between stations, checking final preparations with calm efficiency. "All systems nominal," reported Dr. Park from the science station. "Dimensional matrix is stable at 84%. "Not perfect, but it will have to do," Dr. Kim murmured, making minute adjustments to the drive settings. The past 72 hours had been a blur of activity. The Archimedes had been rushed into service, its systems barely tested beyond simulator runs. Under normal circumstances, it would have undergone months of trials before attempting a dimensional jump. But circumstances were far from normal. Lee's voice cut through the tension. "Update from Mars Defense Perimeter. Silurian fleet has entered orbital range. 23 ships, including their flagship Dominance." He brought up the tactical display. Arrayed against the vastly superior Xilorian fleet was Earth's defensive force, just 12 ships, most of them lightly armed. "They're hailing the Mars colony," Communications Officer Sun announced, demanding immediate surrender and disarmament. Captain Han's face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the command chair. "What's the status of our defensive fleet?" "In position but outgunned 10-1. Tactical Officer Kwan replied. "They can't win a direct engagement." Dr. Kim finished her calculations and nodded to Captain Han. The moment of truth had arrived. For 3 years, she had pursued the theoretical possibility of dimensional travel. Now, humanity's future depended on whether her theories would work in practice. All sections report ready for dimensional jump. First Officer Yun announced. Begin departure sequence. Captain Han ordered. Maintain communication silence. Let the Xilorians think we're just another patrol vessel until we're in position. The Archimedes slipped from its berth, moving silently into space. Its conventional engines would carry it to the jump point, conserving power for the dimensional drive. As they approached Mars orbit, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The tactical display showed the Xilorian ships spreading out to surround the human colonies. Xilorian flagship Dominance is preparing weapons, Lee reported, his voice tight. They're targeting our Mars colonies first. Dr. Kim watched energy readings spike across the enemy fleet. The Xilorians were done with ultimatums. They were moving to demonstrate their superiority through force. All personnel secure for dimensional shift, Captain Han announced over the ship-wide communication system. He turned to Dr. Kim. We're out of time, Doctor. She nodded, making a final adjustment to the dimensional coordinates. Her hands moved with precision born of countless simulations. But this was different. This was real, with real lives depending on her calculations. Initiating 7th dimensional fold, she announced. May mathematics be on our side. She pressed the activation sequence. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the Archimedes shuddered. The bridge lights flickered as power surged through systems never before tested at full capacity. Around them, reality began to warp. It wasn't visible in the conventional sense, more like a feeling that space itself was bending, folding, twisting around the ship. Crew members gripped their stations as vertigo swept through them. Dr. Kim felt as though her body was simultaneously stretching and compressing. Through the viewports, the stars smeared like wet paint. Then darkness enveloped them, not the darkness of space, but a profound absence that seemed to exist between realities. For 3 seconds, they hung in this non-place. Then, emergence. To the watching fleets near Mars, the human vessel appeared to fracture into ghostly copies before vanishing entirely. A collective sigh of relief went through the Xilorian command ships. The humans had apparently destroyed their own vessel in some failed experiment. They were wrong. Moments later, alarms blared across the Xilorian fleet as the impossible occurred. The Archimedes emerged simultaneously at 12 different positions throughout their formation, each manifestation solid yet somehow connected across dimensional planes. On the Dominance's command deck, the Xilorian fleet commander stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. How can they be in multiple locations at once? He demanded of his science officer. It violates fundamental laws of physics. But the evidence was undeniable. The human ship existed in multiple places simultaneously, each version as real as the others. And as the Xilorians struggled to comprehend what they were seeing, Earth's defensive fleet moved into new positions, suddenly coordinating with a confidence they hadn't shown before. On the Archimedes, Dr. Kim stared at her readings in wonder. It worked, she whispered. The 7th dimension doesn't just allow for travel. It allows for quantum superposition at a macroscopic scale. Captain Han smiled grimly. Send the message to the Xilorian fleet. The communication went out from all 12 manifestations of the Archimedes simultaneously. Perhaps you should reconsider your position on human capabilities. The Galactic Conclave headquarters had never seen such activity. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations had arrived within hours of the emergency summons. The massive crystalline structure hummed with urgent conversations in dozens of languages as diplomats and scientists tried to make sense of what had happened at Mars. Dr. Kim stepped from the transport shuttle, flanked by Admiral Choi and Dr. Park. She wore her formal uniform, now adorned with a small pin shaped like the Archimedes, a symbol that had already become famous throughout human territories. People stopped and stared as she passed. Some even bowed slightly. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation at Mars. The Xilorian fleet had withdrawn immediately after the Archimedes demonstration, their commanders too shaken to continue their peacekeeping mission. Videos of the human ship existing in multiple places simultaneously had spread across galactic networks, captivating scientists and causing panic among military strategists. The emergency conclave session buzzed with tension. For the first time, the human delegation sat at the center table, not at the edges. Dr. Kim noted the irony. The same chamber where aliens had laughed at her theories now fell silent as she entered. The conclave moderator, an ancient being from one of the founding species, called the session to order. "We face an unprecedented situation," the moderator announced. "The demonstration of seventh-dimensional technology by humans requires immediate attention and revaluation of our understanding of physical laws." Ambassador Lore of the Xilorians rose from his seat. His usual arrogance had vanished, replaced by something resembling respect. Or perhaps fear. He addressed Dr. Kim directly. "Your ship's capabilities defy our understanding of physics," he stated. "Our scientists have analyzed the recordings extensively. They cannot explain how the Archimedes maintained physical cohesion while existing in multiple spatial locations." Dr. Kim stood to respond. She remembered standing in this same spot 3 years earlier, enduring mockery and dismissal. How quickly things change. "Not defy," she corrected gently. "Expand. The universe has always operated on all 11 dimensions. We've simply learned to navigate them." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species had theorized about dimensions beyond the known 4, but none had successfully manipulated them on a macroscopic scale. "The human understanding of dimensional physics appears to have surpassed our own," admitted the Serica representative, a being composed primarily of crystalline structures. "This is unexpected." Admiral Choi rose next. His military uniform stood in stark contrast to the flowing robes and exoskeletons of the alien diplomats. "Humanity stands at a crossroads," he began formally. "We could keep this technology to ourselves, using it for military advantage. That is what many of you would have done." Uncomfortable shifting rippled through the chamber. He continued. "Instead, we offer partnership." He activated a holographic display showing technical specifications, not complete, but substantial. "We propose dimensional technology sharing in exchange for equal standing among the galactic community." The chamber erupted in discussions. Species turned to their scientific advisors. Military representatives consulted with their governments via secure channels. The Torvak representative, who had once been among humanity's most vocal critics, rose slowly. "Perhaps," the Torvak said carefully, "we have been hasty in our assessment of human potential. This offer demonstrates maturity we did not anticipate." The remainder of the session focused on establishing frameworks for technological exchange and redefining humanity's status within the conclave. Dr. Kim participated when necessary, but found her mind already turning to new possibilities. Hours later, as dignitaries negotiated the details, Dr. Kim slipped away to a quiet observation lounge. She stood by a viewport looking at the stars, thinking about how strange life had become. 3 years ago, she had been a theoretical physicist with controversial ideas. Now, she had rewritten the understanding of physics for dozens of advanced civilizations. "There you are," Park said, joining her at the viewport. "The Elcarians are requesting a private meeting. Their dimensional research was closest to ours, apparently." Dr. Kim nodded absently. "Schedule it for tomorrow." "You seem distracted," Park observed. "Not enjoying your moment of triumph." "Just thinking about next steps," she replied. "What now?" Park asked. "We've achieved what we set out to do. Humanity has its place at the table." She handed him a tablet displaying new calculations. The equations were unlike anything they had used for the 7th dimensional drive. They included temporal variables and strange looping functions. "The 8th dimension," she explained quietly. "I believe it doesn't just bend space, but time itself." Park studied the equations with widening eyes. "Jin, this is. If you're right, we could potentially observe events before they happen. The implications are staggering." "I know," she said. We'll need to proceed carefully. With great power comes great responsibility. Park finished with a small smile. They'll never underestimate us again, will they? Dr. Kim looked back at the chamber where humanity's status in the galaxy was being rewritten. Alien diplomats who once mocked her now sought her opinion and expertise. No, Dr. Kim agreed with a small smile. That advantage is gone. But I prefer respect to mockery anyway. She turned back to the stars, her mind already racing through calculations that would push humanity and the galaxy into an entirely new understanding of reality.